And let us listen to one more presentation, which is about the preparation of geologists to ensure the personnel needs of enterprises of the mineral and raw material complex of Ukraine, current state of affairs and challenges. To speak is Vyzhva Serhii, director of the Institute of Geology at Taras Shevchenko National University, Kyiv, professor, doctor of geological sciences. Let me also add, because not all information about Mr. Serhii is included here. Recently, he was also appointed the corresponding member of the National Academy of Sciences, and let us all congratulate him on this attainment. Now, Mr. Serhii, the floor is yours. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Thanks you for this opportunity to speak. I am grateful to the organizers, to the Union of Geologists, with whom we have been in tight collaboration for many years. The Union of Geologists consists of the graduates of Taras Shevchenko National University, just like the Academy of Sciences. So, colleagues, I will be speaking directly about my topic, but let me also enter the discussion with the previous speaker, Mr. Alexander, and say something to oppose him. Of course, he raises a whole area of different important points, but the development of deposits, it's mining, it's not geology, it's another area of science. And geologists are usually highly protective of science. What we do, we only source, we only explore, we only count, and then we pass it on for the mining industry. But let me start my intervention with the following. These tasks and assignments set for us concerning the deal with the United States, strategic and critical minerals and raw materials, if they are developed, most likely they are going to be developed. It's a matter of time. Who's going to do that? Will Americans or Europeans come here and bring all of the management, all of the employees to deal with that? Most importantly, I suppose that preparing personnel will be incumbent on us. And my topic is the current state of affairs and problems of subsoil use. So, first of all, let me make a few statements before I move on to the numbers I have prepared. So what do universities and academia represent nowadays? I think they are the hubs of stability in Ukraine, because we make plans for mid-term and long-term prospects. We work, and as of now, we haven't lost touch with public institutions and real businesses. So how is this done? First and foremost, this is done via our alumni, graduates, the parents, and the sponsors of our students, because clearly if you have graduates and students, you can work with them. Secondly, it's our expert analysis and delivery of services of analytical kind and different kinds of expertise, examinations, because we have a lot of private institutions, public institutions turning out to us. Thirdly, it's our social function, because to all of the questions, I personally did 15 interviews for different agencies and news outlets in Portugal, France, Germany, etc. for New York Times. Mr. Mikhailov, professor, he has already done more than 20 different interviews for international news outlets, and we have to explain every time the same thing over and over again. You inevitably understand these things, and you are marveled at the questions that non-specialists ask you. For example, Maxim Vitek said that he's not going to articulate different things about the extraction, but the correspondents will immediately ask where we have the deposits, how much is being extracted, etc. Say it for the camera and very quickly. Thirdly, I suppose that our universities are a hub to align cooperation with our foreign partners. For example, National Shevchenko University has agreements with more than 700 overseas universities, grant programs, and the like. Now I would like to share about problems. So the question is, given the fact that we are a candidate country for the membership in the EU, we had to harmonize fully our educational space with that of the European system. In fact, two issues arose. First of all, we began to speak as if the same language with our counterparts, the same educational degrees, the same terms of studying, formal requirements, etc. Whilst on the other hand, it seems they say the development of geology at the level of Ukraine is the highest in comparison to other countries in the EU, but the officials never paid much attention to that, and they decided to harmonize our legislation, so they did it in 2015. There was the first resolution by the Cabinet of Ministers, according to which 21 occupations, 3 areas of knowledge, geology, geography, hydrometeorology, were merged into one speciality. This is geosciences. And respectively, this speciality includes not only geologists, but all of the meteorology, geology, soil studies, etc. They were all rolled into one. In 2014, amendments were introduced to this list, so we had 24 areas of knowledge, and now we only have 11. In Europe, there are 10 areas of knowledge. We also add another one, military area of knowledge. And now geological area of sciences. So the subject of studies, I'm in charge of the project group to develop different geosciences, and we put it this, that our subject of studies is the whole Earth, all of the processes unfolding on it and in it. And in all of the standards which we set out, there's not a single word mentioned about the fact that neither geology nor geophysics is mentioned. So when we take a look at the whole list of these occupations and specialties, which is in some way traditional for us, all of these professionals need to be prepared and equipped. All of these subtle points have to be accounted for. And this has to be contributed to a single curriculum, to a single speciality, so that it can be accredited with international institutions, and diplomas can be issued based on this curriculum. So the question is, how can we account for all of this? So let us do it due to the multiplicity of tasks and speciality and personnel available. Next issue I would like to draw your attention to is the requirements that we have to the curriculum itself, to the professionals that we are preparing and training, etc. If we have a look, nowadays more than 36 academia are preparing different kinds of professionals in this regard, and only 9 of them are preparing geological specialists.
You see the main list. I will not name, you'll know them. And now some statistics for you. So you can see numbers here, and you can see by years what is the current state order. Thanks to support of Geology Service and our impact through our graduates to the Parliament, to the Ministry of Economy. Our specialty of earth sciences is well protected and high priority. What does it mean? It means that we can order as many professionals as we can provide and sustain. So 4 columns. The left column is macro size, how much the state can put an order to. So you see 124 in the latest years there's a certain decrease because demographic situation is somewhat, of course, harder. Our students are moving, relocating, and parents have other priorities. So the second column is the realistic number of recommended specialists. So the state order is bigger, but if we competed with each other, with the Lviv, Kyiv, Ivano-Frankivsk, Dnipro, it would be great. The students could choose the best option. But when the student writes IT, earth sciences, politics, everything, and then we have much smaller number of students than the maximum state order that we can count on. So the next column, the green one, this is the number of enrolled. There were some recommended people who were already recommended by the state, but turns out not everybody brings their documents in, because it was a certain reserve, backup options. Part of the children left abroad, some of them stayed here, and the parents decided that it's cheaper to pay for a contract scholarship than to fund that student to go to some regional big center, Kyiv, Kharkiv, whatever. So other two columns, this next column, which is how much is allocated. Of all those students that were enrolled, how many of them are purely geological specialty? And then the yellow column are those students that actually were enrolled. That doesn't mean that they were all graduated. So let me tell you that all over Ukraine, geological faculties enrolled 140 students. As Stella said, 1,300 are employed in National Academy of Sciences in Earth Sciences. So working 25 years in average, you need 40, 30. So 20,000 in the institute. We need 1,000 each year to have natural, fresh water. So what is the problem then? Why don't we have the necessary numbers of students? So demographic situation, of course. Less graduate, 15 to 20% shorter number of graduates from high school. War, of course. Well, that's something we have to deal with. Now, the current situation is in geology. Since there is restructuring and the state plans are being decreasing, that leads to loss of prestige of our specialty from 40 to 60% based on our data of our students are dynasties. So children who inherited those who already work. So if the industry does not working, then they go to some other industry. So we believe that current interest is increased interest to minerals and all those and all those agreements with the U.S. So we hope we will increase number of students. So we'll see. So there's another thing here. I took some data starting from 2019, and you can see a slide here which says how many students were enrolled by each of these academia in Ukraine. So the number of bachelors is Shevchenko University #1, but that's historically. Everybody got smaller, but since we are central, we decreased a little less. So an interesting situation with master studies. About 50% of the bachelors go to masters. So sometimes Shevchenko has up to 70%. So the trend in some academia, let me draw your attention to, of course, the biggest state commissioning is Shevchenko and those who are around the state order. So it's an interesting dynamic of the upper part of the slide. Last year, you see the state order. Shevchenko is now number 3 in number of students, even number 4 in the number of students enrolled. The state order is the biggest part of it, chunk of it. So, but for instance, Lviv University last year had enrolled, having the state order, 29, but they enrolled 66 to the contract. Since there's a big competition, so the masters can be enrolled by any bachelors who have any education, like science, humanitarian, technological. Ivano-Frankivsk Oil and Gas University enrolled last year, having 21 for state order, has enrolled 61 contract students. These real people, and why they went there. Well, so to the right, you can see the results of last year. Last year, they increased the requirements threshold. So the unified exam, foreign language skills, all those competencies. So now University of Shevchenko is number one again, but number of contracts, you see Ivano-Frankivsk has a big percentage, Lviv, and so on. So now this next situation, one more slide at the bottom here in green, the cost of scholarship contract meaning. Because the state does compensate about 80,000 hryvnias per year per one budget scholarship. So bachelor, masters, and so on. So if some academia are dumping prices, I want to ask you, is it realistic to train a high-skilled professional in 40,000 hryvnia? So I was traveling in Warsaw with one of the British citizens who was an IT guy, and he was telling me that in any university in Britain, regardless on what department you are enrolling, the pay is quite big, but he was complaining. He says, I was only shown a computer that I have at home, but the physicists, they were shown a much more sophisticated equipment. So to train a geologist, you need some kind of materials, laboratories, equipment, state-of-the-art field experience, and just the same amount is given for mechanical mathematicians, IT, lawyers, economists. So much less spending, but it takes a lot to train them. So considering this, the academia, why I show that the colleagues are enrolling not so many people. Because the cost for training is changing. Now there's only Lviv University, Geology faculty, and Geology faculty of Kyiv University. The rest of them are called differently. They are the Institute of Nature and Science or Tourism. So what are they doing? Or just a faculty of natural sciences. So it's a disbalance. Considering this, we need to seriously cooperate with businesses because there are a lot of companies coming to us asking to provide experts, and we've seen how many experts are graduating in Ukraine. So if we hired 140 per all Ukraine, about half of them, will graduate and will go to work as the specialists. Well, the rest will be just changed. They will change the profession maybe. So we have to train them. Of course, the universities themselves, even through funding, they won't be able to do it. So there are positive examples. In particular, as Maxim was telling us, how Ukrgaz Vidobывание works. They signed a memorandum between Naftogaz Ukraine and the 9 different excellence centers. There's an DTech Academy that we're cooperating with. But without the more active participation of businesses, our specialty, our will diminish. And as I showed you some examples from Shevchenko University, we've crossed some psychological barrier where we hired when we had less than 100 students in 2023. And in the last year, we've seen 89 students. And it's not only geological specialty. That's geodesics and zoning, another specialty. We started training them on GIS technologies. So it's more of a real estate related job. So we are expecting this kind of response, and it's not only our problem. It's great that we had an idea to create brand rooms and different organizations. So now it is about having a twinning program between Shevchenko. It's a master's program. It's now in negotiations. And so the conclusions that I can make, that this international cooperation leads to us being understood better by our foreign colleagues, but inside we don't have much variation, and only if the teacher is actively engaged we can understand what is the actual task. So if the cooperation will remain as it is now, we have diminishing numbers of academia that will train geologists because it's costly and it requires significant effort. So a number of academia has stabilized because of security measures. They build shelters, like we are now doing the same in Kyiv Natural Reserve. Thanks for the colleagues from Ivano-Frankivsk and Lviv. They help to host our students so that we're not overcrowded. And so you're all invited for cooperation because the university right now is not only a place to train experts. It's a serious scientific institution. We have 19 doctor studies and PhD studies. We have a doctor thesis in geophysics. Our publications, Geology series, is in Scopus and Book of Science. So we're pretty much interested with all organizations. So thank you so much. I hope we will have cooperation in the future. Thank you so much.